Nathan, welcome to Design.Build.Range. This is our first video. Today we're going to build walls. Now this was the first wall we created, pretty simple 1/2 inch PVC. The intent was drive a piece of rebar at the range, slide it down over, cover it as you needed for your course of fire. Turns out, didn't think it through my transport, which is my pickup truck, and no matter how I try to fit this thing, it doesn't go. So we came up with version 2, which is over here, and this is version 2. Now version 2 is a little bit different than I would have expected to build, but since I built all of them the first time with version 1, we had to modify it. But I like this one because I've got these tops on the top, and it fits between my wheel wells at about 48 inches. Problem with these is when I load my truck to go to the range, these go on top, not on bottom. So I really shorted myself some distance. So today, for our inaugural build, we're going to build a new one. So we've got 7 pieces of material, some rebar, and our drawings. And what we're really going to do is when we build this, is we're going to add pieces to the end and we're going to widen them up with the intent of maximizing the distance between my truck rails. So it's about 58 inches on the clamps. That's what we're going to build to. So the next step, we're going to get to the saw, set some things up. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so we've got the saw mounted to some plywood. This is how I'm choosing to do it. I've laid out my 7 pieces and what cuts I'm going to make on each one. And that way I can configure it, cut it all once, get the most out of each material. I think it would have worked out if I was making more. I could have balanced out P7 a little bit more. I'm expecting to have about 59 inches of drop out of P7. The rest of them I'm expecting to have about 1 inch of drop. So the first cuts I'm going to make out of each one is the 2.5 inch. So I've set up a stop block, I'll cut, and then I'll work my way through it. So I'll cut all the 2.5s that are on each piece, so it looks like only piece 7 has, the way I've laid it out, 2.5s. So I'll get pipe 7, that's this one, up in the saw. I'm using these scissor jacks just to help keep things lined up, make it a little easier to work. So I'm going to trim the end just to make sure I start square, and we'll see how it works. And there's the problem with the stop block. It's catching the piece. So time to go back to the drawing board for a minute. So let's clean this guy up. And we'll skip that. And we're probably just going to measure them. I'll just create a guide to make the measurement. That way I can lay them out a little easier every time. So give me a minute. We'll see what the next jig looks like. So it seemed like a good idea to use the stop block, wound up pinching it, and then when it was almost done, kicked up and chipped it out. So plan B, it's usually an option. So I've set up a gauge, and I'll mark each piece, and then I'll cut them individually, back to kind of the setup we had, and we'll see how, if this works any better. Seems to be a much better fit. Let's check the length. 2.5 where we wanted it. And based on our piece count, we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them. So let's get to cutting. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 4. There's 8. Moving on.
Okay.
All right, so we've made a lot of progress on the cutting, but it was, cutting, so it's not like it's a lot of fun to watch. But we're down to our last 2 cuts, and these are 60 inches at length. And all I got to do is get my saw set where I want it. Make these 2 cuts, and we'll see how we did in our total drop. I was much better at doing this when you weren't watching with the camera. Oh, no, I want that one there. Go put this one where it belongs. Last one. The gauge has worked out pretty good. I've liked how this has worked. It's been fairly effective and fairly efficient. I've made a little bit of progress in my technique, which is nice. Don't need to mark the whole length of pipe, just enough to get where you want to line it up on your saw blade. So there we go. Last cut on 60. We started with 7 pieces, and we predicted that piece 1 1, 2, 3, there's 4, 5, and 6. Yep, they would all be for drop lengths just over an inch. I'd say we did pretty good, given that not every piece of material was right at the 10 foot. And of course our 7th piece was at 57 because we screwed up 1 cut. And all in all, the cutting is done. So what we're going to do now, get everything picked up, cleaned up. We're going to configure our sawhorses and our plywood so that we're not bending on the floor, and we'll start gluing them up. So in a minute, we'll glue, and we'll make a mess because it's glue. All right, so we had to run to take care of a problem with the tire. That's taken care of. We're back. We did configure the plywood to have a nice big place to work. Got all our parts laid out. I'm going to just start gluing it up. I'm going to work from one side to the other, from top to bottom. Try to keep everything pressed into the plywood to keep it kind of trued up and pointed in the right direction. We'll see how it goes. So, time to glue. I am using the purple and green outdoor glue from Oakley's or Oatly, whatever it is. So, it smells great. Good thing the door is open because, boy, it's got a nice odor to it today. Prime it. Glue it. And I am probably not a great plumber, so I'm making a heck of a mess, I'm sure, already. But I do like the little cart from IKEA or whatever it is. Kind of handy to do this kind of stuff. So, just get a couple pieces primed there. Glue this guy in. And this is where it gets important to make sure everything's lined up. So that's looking good. And just keep on working. All right, so glue up is done on 2 of them. We'll see if we met our mission, our goal, our effort to make them fit within the truck here in a minute. Gloves for gluing. I think it was a good idea because I'm not covered in it at the moment. So we're going to do a little bit of pickup, let those set for a second, and then we will test fit them. So all in all, so far things are in good shape, and let's see how it feels in the truck in just a minute. All right. So as we bring home this particular episode, this build, let's remind ourselves where we are. We started with the original concept. Now that doesn't fit my truck. Took those walls, modified them to something of this nature. Worked pretty decent, they fit in the truck. And then when I built these and I saw these upper pieces, I thought, oh, we could build something with that for course of fire design. But I wanted to maximize the width. So we are on mod 3. We've cut it, we've glued it, and now for the moment of truth, see what we are distance-wise across, and then make sure it'll fit in the truck. Because today would be a bad day if it doesn't fit in the truck. So I'm 58 inches out to out, point to point. Let's see how it fits. So, with that, get this one out of the way, and fits in there nicely. Yeah, it's going to be a good fit, and it'll fit all the way between all my pieces. I'll call that a win. Looking forward to it. In a future build, I have an idea of how to make a target swing out from behind the wall using these points, and then across the top I'd like one to swing down into the shooter's vision, either as hardcover, obscuring the target, or maybe presenting a new target. We'll deal with that in another episode. So this was Design, Build, Range. I'm Nathan. It was great having you. Thanks.